G'day guys, welcome to this week's weekly developer update. I'm CW and joining me once again we have Armeanio. How are you, mate?
I'm pretty well. I'm doing pretty well. It's what, 1:30 a.m. here. So
Ooh.
little, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, it's been a long day for you, starting off with the AMA, but here we are doing this recording. All right, so just a little introduction. I think we had something that happened pretty significantly in the Ergo ecosystem, and fortunately we had one of the loyal community members actually find and sort of provide a solution. Crasivus, a big shout out to Cras for finding the vulnerability, and everyone else involved finding the vulnerability in the HODL coin contract. So yeah, let's sort of touch on that and the open source nature and everything like that.
Yeah. One of the most important things about having kind of open source, right, is number one, it gives the ability for people to have like an external view, and generally, people learn from each other, right? Tools are composable, so when you have something that's potentially interesting, there's a certain incentive. If I'm building one project, to review, look at another project's code, figure out how it works, how it could plug into what I'm doing. And so, we had a community developer who's working on duck pools. The contract said, hey, there's a problem, and white hatted it and actually gave everybody their money back, right? So I think that certainly there's something to learn in terms of better stress testing and kind of battle testing things on testnet before getting to mainnet. There's probably something to learn for users that it's not always the greatest idea to ape in, right? But it's one of those things where the open source nature of the Ergo ecosystem protected a lot of people, and that's really great to see. I think it's very fair in this space to say that when you have something that's closed source and you have an exploit, the first assumption should be it's an inside job.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say.
Yeah, and versus when it's open source, it's true that everybody can see potential vulnerabilities, but most of the people that are looking in Ergo at this point are building on Ergo. So yeah, that's kind of protected a lot of people. Great to see.
Yeah, huge shout out to Cras and even LGD and everyone to sort of build out the Phoenix contracts. That's their iteration of the implementation of HODL coin and things like that. So huge kudos to everyone involved, just redistributing all the Erg and things like that in a timely manner, but then also taking the steps to actually make sure that it has gone back to the right people, writing the scripts to make sure it does send back to the right people, etc., etc. So, you did touch on the open source nature and having everything open source. People looking at ways to maybe refactor the code that they're sort of trying to implement, pick out ideas and everything like that. So ultimately, it does make everyone sort of stronger and battle harden these protocols. And over time, everything just gets hardened.
Yep.
All right, let's jump into this week's update. So kicking things off, we have Arco jumping in a little bit early once again. So the latest updates about the Erg Explorer. You can see on his Medium page, but then in short, he's done some updates to the address book filter and sorting, overall visual updates, and upgraded the server to 1 gigabyte machine. And next up, doing some scraping and indexing work for addresses. And as always, you can check out the repo if you want to check out more.
That's awesome tool.
Yep.
Nice to see some new explorers.
Yeah, most definitely. Build out the redundancy and dependencies throughout the ecosystem. So scrolling down, looks like next we have Glasgow.
All right. Looks like he dropped the monthly wrap up for the past month. There's a bit of discussion about the EIP that we needed to push let's say, post merge.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's something to learn from.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a lot of good lessons all the way around. I can say that uh, it was a difficult situation, right? And I think one of them is you're coming from a ecosystem where the developers basically told the miners, "Fuck you, we're going to do what you want or what we want," right?
Yeah.
Sorry, you don't get your mining fees anymore. Sorry, we're switching consensus and we don't need you.
Yeah.
And then one of those things where, it puts other proof of work projects in a position where it's like, oh, do you really want to try to push for a hard fork from the developers right after that, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, there was some concepts floating around. I can say that I kind of helped propose that EIP, and it's something we had talked about for a couple months, Kushti and I, but his focus was somewhere else, and I was dropping that in some mining channel saying, hey, the miner should lead the way. That didn't happen.
Mhm.
And then I guess we kind of pushed a modified version of that original idea out. Something to learn from, right? Hopefully we see some more active engagement from the mining community. Whenever there's good EIPs, good ideas, it's worth discussing.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, most definitely. And it's a lot of people have a lot of suggestions. And like you said, both sides can learn from this as well, from basically foundation, core developer, etc. But then also the miner governance aspect and people realizing, or miners realizing, the governance that they have over the protocol itself. You might not necessarily have the technical capabilities in regards to writing code and things like that, but if you do have a proposal or an issue or anything like that, just create a push and an issue on the GitHub and start the discussion. Have something formal, not just sort of shout out to someone and just say, fix this. Put something together like basically a formal, informal sort of proposal and start the discussion. And if it's warranted, by all means, things will be pursued by not only the core team, but the community as well. Okay, so moving on, we have Luivatra and the Paideia beta update. So on the back end, worked on some small things, mostly ready for beta. And on the front end, working on finalizing notification integration. Noob has built a generic notification setup, helping the user to keep track of what is happening. And then on to Crux Finance. Worked on a proof of concept data model for an Explorer-like database to support the needs we have with Crux. Took some inspiration from some of the chatter here regarding the Explorer optimizations, so such as a separate table for addresses, etc., and trying to build it in such a way that it allows for fast lookup and easy rollback in case of forks.
all right. Next, it looks like we have morphic with the Sigma State interpreter. Looks like the next PR is ready for review. With cross compilation of Ergo script compiler to JavaScript. Release candidate version 5.0.9 has been released, and the first POC prototype in Sigma.js has been published. On the Ergo side, addressed review comments for the Ergo node chat GPT plugin integration. And up next, he's going to take into account the feedback on the first version of Sigma.js and implement multi-sig in the app kit based on EIP 11.
Sweet. Okay, following on, we have greenhat and his progress. He's bootstrapped a new pool for the gold Erg on testnet. It's released version 2.0.0 beta 2. Beta 12. So fix some bugs discovered during the bootstrapping process, the work in progress, testing the voting in his local pool, and then test on the voting in the gold Erg pool on testnet. And also another work in progress, digging into the area discovered in issue 301 during the voting. And then next up, finish testing the voting in the local pool and the test and test the voting in the gold Erg pool on testnet. They got there in the end.
All right, next we have Captain Nemo, the Nautilus team update. So it looks like the captain's got some crew now. Awesome to see. Fleet SDK. Looks like the Fleet SDK for AgeUSD plugin added the exchange plugin, now adding unit tests using a mock chain. Fleet SDK compiler introduced a compiler package, a wrap around Sigma.js compiler. The first alpha is about to be released. Just need Sigma.js's value from hex support, or to support any valid Sigma constant before release. Assisted morphic with the Sigma.js compiler. And with other matters, wrote the REST API specs for Explorer. Everyone's welcome to join the discussions. I would recommend a lot of people hop on, look at the Explorer. What Maxime is doing is pretty cool.
Yeah. By all means, jump on there and check it out. A little comment here from Anon BR. Take a look at what Maxime is doing with Explorer, which can possibly probably meet Crux's finances needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next we have Kushti, and then the protocol and reference client development front. It's polishing the bootstrapping with NIPoPoWs PR. So pool 1937 will be proposed for review later today or tomorrow and released in 5.0.13. That's pretty big. I think that'll be the final piece of NIPoPoWs, which is coming, looks like in the update 5.0.13. Do you want to touch on NIPoPoWs for a little bit?
Sure. Basically, well, the funny thing here is I know Alex was working on that while the drama with Erg was going on, and somehow he managed to, get a lot of progress done. Yeah, there's a great website out there that I think is a good informational resource that people can use, NIPoPoWs.com.
Yeah.
He talks about super blocks and how you can potentially build, on top of that, for the average user, what, kind of neat things do you see? It's a kind of a compression technique, right? Where you can create ultralight wallets, light infrastructure. You can potentially use that as a string across chains and get cross-chain communication. That's kind of ultralight. A lot of cool long-term potential with that technology. I think that bootstrapping is just going to be the first, let's say, fruit of the labor that it's taken. If you go back to, let's say, the Ergo videos from 2019, what is Ergo? What's some of the cool stuff we want to do? And that's always been on the roadmap. And so it's really cool actually, roll up to that milestone.
Yeah, cross-chain, side chains, things like that, SPV clients. There's some pretty cool things that can be built from this. And once it's implemented, it's just out to the community and let people use their imagination to try and utilize this in some pretty unique ways. We see a lot of things being built on Ergo that's not sort of necessarily being built elsewhere in the industry. So this then can sort of bootstrap some collective mind share and see how that sort of blossoms in the Ergo ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then on other matters, reissued the Dexy testnet tokens again after the Oracle pool update. They polished some off-chain code also. Reviewed a few iterations of the HODL coin contract. Unfortunately, that did not help. So, once again, big shout out to Crass. Also reviewed new Phoenix contract by LGD. Made some tests for the old contract after it failed, and ready to make some tests for the new one once the proxy contract's ready. They're just tagging MGPy and LGD there.
All right, looks like next we have LiquidPhase. Terahertz.fm, formerly Swamp Audio. I know that LiquidPhase basically did a big rotation, which I think is going to be a net positive for the project. Refactored their stack basically from PHP Laravel to a Python-based framework for more extensibility. I know that's been pretty. That's a big change, right? When you build in one direction, you're like, hey, I'm gonna scrap it and build in another direction. Recreate a stack that you've been working on for a while. So that's nice to see. Alpha preview is up at terahertz.fm. The user system artist dashboard is working in live. Do not, and that's underlined, so probably is important. Do not create official releases using the alpha version, as the system is more prone to errors and breaking than a live site, including loss of data due to incomplete CI/CD pipeline. Feel free to create a mock release and test out the site. And looks like there's been a video update from Terahertz, which is at the link below.
There's a couple of sort of budding musicians in the ecosystem, and by all means, jump on there and check it out. And I'll issue a challenge. Rero, jump on there and chuck up an album. It'd be pretty interesting, and I think everyone can enjoy.
It would be nice to get some music in the space, right?
Yeah,
that's actually one thing, historically that really helped. Let's say in the early days of Ergo, when things were, I don't know, we were in kind of a crypto winter, 2019, 2020 early, and music is a powerful thing. So hopefully we see some nice stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. And just on that, the NFT or the audio NFT front, I think it's something that's definitely underutilized, and be awesome to see that sort of being built out and people taking advantage of it, and then artist royalties incorporated and all kinds of things like that. I'd be love to see all that sort of come to fruition. Okay, next we have MHS and the Rosen Bridge update. So it's doing some work on the Watcher app and the Guard app. So the Watcher app development will be finished in a few days. The Guard service, transaction processor, and the cold storage modules have been refactored. Almost every file and module in the Guard is refactored. So currently working on integrating a new version of the TSS into the Guard. So a new version of TSS is available at the following link. So Rosen chains on the Cardano front found and fixed a bug while testing the Guard service. And so the back end's refactored. It's almost done, and the front end will be likely to be finished in the next week. Then they'll go through a very short period of overall tests to ensure the integrity of the refactored code, and then they'll launch. And then on a biz side, the Spectrum and zenGate teams are helping the Rosen team launch an accelerator. So if you want to check out the Medium article there, but then also there's some things up on social media as well, the tweets and infographics and things like that. So definitely get behind them.
Yeah, I actually do think that by the time this video comes out, the Catalyst proposal will be up on the website, as far as I know. So awesome. Something for those of you that are in the Cardano ecosystem, please check out.
Yep, watch this space. Just a little update here from Grand Gambit. Most of the Grand Gambit time's been spent in the listings, so not much game development going on, so not much to announce.
All right, looks like next we have dEathgripson with analog Ergo. Fixed the major GUI glitches. Automatic claim and refund script is working for EVM swap responders. Working on automatic refund script for Ergo swap initiators. Awesome.
Yeah, sounds good. Next we have LGD, and he's been busy once again across multiple fronts. So working on GuapSwap first. So finished the GuapDrop service contract, and then working on a new GuapSwap service contract. On the Lilium front, getting ready for launching on mainnet. So they'll be testing before making official launch announcement, and also writing user guides. So next we have Phoenix. So started a new project called Phoenix Finance. So it's born from the ashes of the HODL Erg with MG So working on updating the bank contract, implementing new proxy contract for users instead of directly interacting with the bank, implementing a new transaction fee contract, The UI designer implemented a new UI, and the Phoenix HODL coin will run using decentralized bot similar to Lilium.
Awesome.
Nice to see.
Yeah, things blew up, and now we get the Phoenix rising from the ashes, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Next, zenGate, designing relational. Yeah, designing relational database for Palmyra Comdex, the platform and traceability platform. Traceability design is complete. Now slowly working on implementing the new contracts and designing data entry layout for traceability portal. And on the Blitz front, still working on off-chain code for card token burn setup phase and adding the final features and fixes before moving on to the transaction bot. Lots going on there from LGD and MGPy.
That's great to see.
That sums up this week's update. So yeah, lots of things going on. One thing that I'm excited about, NIPoPoWs, is kind of finally here. A lot of people have joined over the last sort of couple of years and have always mentioned they want to see NIPoPoWs and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's finally here.
So yeah, we're getting there, and the truth is it's really a foundation that a lot can be built on top of.
Yep.
Right. I wish it were like the crown, but it is more like the foundation, right? There's a lot to potentially build, explore. We may see other proof of work chains, supporting that in the future, in which case we can get some neat cross-chain communication in place. When you're talking ultralight wallets that are only downloading, blocks or super blocks, that's going to be pretty sweet to see the sync times. So there's a lot to explore still. It's definitely a great tool to have, but there's a lot we can build with it, and that's what's most important long term.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to make. It is a foundation sort of thing that people can build upon. A lot of expectations there, probably expecting a lot of things to be sort of come to fruition straight away, but a lot of people sort of will have to get their head around the concept and things like that, and then start building things on top and start harnessing sort of this technology. So yeah, watch this space.
Even with like the UTXO set snapshot, the ability to sync a node in an hour or 2 hours is a massive improvement compared to the time it takes to sync some nodes out there. So I know that a lot of the people on the trading side probably don't even see or appreciate that. But in terms of core, ecosystem infrastructure, it's a pretty big win.
Yeah, most definitely. And it just aids with decentralization. We keep sort of harping on about it and things like that, people running infrastructure. And if we can break down that barrier and make it sort of something that doesn't take, say, 24 hours to sync, it can be done in a couple of hours, or you can utilize full node security on your phone, utilizing NIPoPoWs, ultralight wallets, and things like that. Having that security and infrastructure in place, I think that's sort of invaluable for the ecosystem moving forward.
Yeah, and I hope that we see more and more people still bootstrapping a full node and maybe even running the index or on top of it.
Yeah, most definitely.
It'd be nice to.
Exactly, because then others can utilize and start pulling from the infrastructure that you're running, and ultimately sort of building out the ecosystem as a whole.
Everybody loves to talk about decentralization, but not everybody loves to run infrastructure, and that's like the core, tenet of being decentralized is having decentralized infrastructure. So the easier we can make that, the better off we are long term.
Yeah, most definitely. Very well said. All right, guys, thanks once again for tuning into this week's update. Joe, always a pleasure chatting.
Yep, have a good one.
Take care, everyone.